Why, hello everybody, and welcome to our one-shot special. How are the two of you guys doing today?
I'm doing
Great.
good. Yeah. I got to the
Excellent.
gym this morning. I worked on my flexibility, which sucked because I am not really all that flexible, but it's important. And no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm writing up little campaign notes because after this, I'm actually going to run for a friend of mine. So
Ooh,
we're all
Oh, I've been building IKEA furniture all day.
fantastic.
nice.
Yeah, feels good, mum.
What in particular have you been building?
A bed, a TV cabinet, like a stand to put a TV on, and then like a cabinet for the bathroom with a mirror.
Is this because when that guy broke in, he stole all of your furniture?
No, but we just moved, so as well. Like we didn't have any furniture, so I've been sleeping on a mattress just on the floor for the last 3 weeks.
Youth style. Very nice.
Yeah,
Keeping in touch
Yep.
with your younger roots.
that's it. No, I'm still very young, can't you, Phil?
Yeah, you're like 32. You're nice and young.
Yay. 28 for the record.
For now.
But no, yeah.
For now. You will inexorably age, and eventually you will not be 28 anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Neil's gonna cast haste on me.
He's gonna ace Nick.
So it's been a while since we've had Greg as a character.
Yes.
It feels so natural to have you back.
I
Thank
feel
you.
slightly nostalgic.
Yeah, yeah. This might even be the better setup, just scrap Sean, get rid of that guy. Just to make him
Yeah.
bad forever.
He was too goody two shoes to get himself killed.
Oh.
That's okay. We're about to be very goody two shoes.
Yeah, it's true.
But the reason we're not actually doing a Hardcore Heroes episode today is because Sean is traveling
No.
across the country.
Well, you said, Neil, you want some time off, right? So.
Oh, yeah.
Stage.
Yeah, but he was going to be... The reason
He was
he's
away
not
anyway.
joining us here today is he's traveling across the country.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's talk about the game we're playing today. This is a one-shot, it's a standalone episode. There will be no follow-up. If these characters survive, they'll probably just be, retired. Maybe they'll get pulled back in sometime later, but expect this to be a single standalone episode.
Mm-hmm.
The two of you have been tasked with chasing down an escaped murderer named Lort, who was convicted of the murder and cannibalism of more than 10 people in Longcast, a small town on the the west coast of Eridron. The two of you have been following him for a few hundred miles now, maybe only like 150 miles, and you have followed him to the outskirts of Fortune, the county seat of Flat County out in the Great Plains. You are now entering a small town. You can see Fortune off in the distance, maybe 10 miles from here. But
Okay.
before we actually hop into game, why don't we introduce our characters, and you guys can tell us who you are.
You can go
Nick, I
first,
think
Greg.
this is your show. Go to
Okay.
town.
So Gunter is a human paladin with ridiculous stats. I've got 18 strength, 17 charisma, 16 dexterity, 14 wisdom. Great stats. He's a lawful neutral paladin of Astur, so committed to maintaining the law and order of the gods and the kingdom, and all of the kingdoms, I assume. Hunting down chaos and wrongdoers wherever they may be. He's 6'4", extremely well built. He's got shoulder-length white hair and a thick white beard, grey eyes. Carries a long sword and a shield, chainmail armor, javelins on his back. That's pretty
Nice.
much it.
All right. I am playing Bishop. He is a cleric of Astaire as well. Bishop is a older gentleman of 45 years of age. He wears his hair graying, pulled back in a bun behind him, and he is very kind of dark-skinned and kind of laid back. He was not always a cleric. He has recently joined the Cloth a few years back, and his past is one of violence and perhaps bad things. And for this reason, he walks with very obvious limp from old battle wounds. And you can tell just by looking at him that he may have been hale and hearty once in his days, but is not quite as hale now. He bears his past with him.
Okay. How long have the two of you guys known each other?
I think probably since we joined the cloth. I think that I just, gave up the life of a sellsword and violent do-gooder as I heard the calling of a more just cause and of following the law. And I joined the cloth and immediately, this showed that in my advanced age I had learned something of wisdom and was showing signs of being a very good and powerful cleric. So they kind of patched me up with the mouth of the god itself, the paladin, so that he could kind of guide my way away from the troubled past.
Fantastic.
Sure. I think maybe so I'm 36, so I think probably was a bit of a wrongdoer myself in a former life. Spent a lot of time in jail, did some bad things, and then one day in solitary confinement in the dark, a bright vision of white light came to me, and Astaire spoke to me and told me that this was my last chance to avoid burning in the eternal hellfire and to join his order and repent by destroying those who would done as I had. All right.
Well, let's hop into game. It is late afternoon as the two of you enter into this small, ignominious village out in the middle of pretty much nowhere. You can see Fortune off in the distance, maybe 5, maybe 10 miles away from you. The Keep of Fortune sits on this kind of raised plateau overlooking the entire city, which makes it kind of silhouetted against the late afternoon sky. This area is very flat, very hot, very dry. Kind of the yellow fields stretch out as far as the eye can see in pretty much every direction. There are a few trees scattered about, but not terribly too many, and most of them in this small little village. The people here give you skittish looks as they see you in your weapons and armor kind of striding into town. Everyone keeps a pretty good distance from you, and as you come close to people, they may walk inside and shut their doors and keep a healthy distance. You guys are looking for Lort, the cannibalistic murderer. So take it away.
Those who shy away from us as we walk through, I feel innately suspicious about them. And I say to Bishop, "You think this town has a temple? I would care to pray."
Well, I have never been here before myself. I would assume most towns have a temple. I'm more concerned about these people fleeing us. Perhaps we strike a too ominous a visage. And I kind of want to just walk up to people and be like, "Hey, there's no need to fear us. We are just men, followers of the Lord Astaire. Please, what have you to fear from us?"
The person you're speaking to is a middle-aged man. He gives you a bit of a skittish look and looks directly at your weapon. You're carrying a mace, did you say?
A mace, yes.
Yeah.
I hold my hands up and say, "Oh, there is no need to fear from this. This is only to be used on the, trespassers of the way of our Lord. If you are a righteous man, then you have no cause for fear at all. Yeah, I would not carry this if I was not on grave business."
Well, what business of yours is it here?
You see, my companion and I, we've been tracking a terrible transgressor, an eater of men. He was far to the west at one point, but has fled justice for too long. It is time that we bring him the law. And we've been tracking him through this town, unfortunately. It's my belief he's on his way to, I believe this city, or the county seat here is Fortune. Large cities are much better for people that wish to hide from the law. The many make it harder to pick out individuals that require the Lord's justice.
We had someone coming through here just yesterday. Fat, misshapen, ugly man with burns across his face.
Yes, I believe this fits our description. Tell me, he came through and left?
Aye, last night.
Last night. Heading east? Indeed, indeed. I turn around and say, it seems we're only a day behind them. Tell me, do you still wish to pray at the temple, or shall we press on?
How far is Fortune from here, peasant?
5 miles. He points
Perhaps
to the keep rising above the town. It's that way.
I look to Bishop. Perhaps we should press on.
That was my thoughts exactly. I kind of wave my hands above him and count some strange ritual and say, "Thank you, my good sir. May the Lord's blessing go with you." And then we just walk off.
He calls after you as you start to walk away. If you're really men of the Lord, you might want to see this.
I stop and
Turn around.
Turn around, yeah. Walk back towards him.
He leads you kind of away from the city square, town square, really, village square, out to where their very small cathedral is, and out back there is a cemetery plot with a man digging a grave. There is a corpse in a wheelbarrow next to the grave that this guy is digging. The old peasant leads you up to it and points at the body. It's clearly been murdered, looks like stabbed through the gut, but there is a large section of flesh that has been cut away from the neck that looks like someone carved it out with a knife. The old peasant points to that and goes, "We found him this morning."
I fear this may be the latest victim of a great transgressor. He likes the fleshy part next to the neck. Apparently it cooks up something like bacon to him.
I crouch down next to the body and say a blessing to have the man's sins be judged fairly in the afterlife, and pass him on to Esther. Stand back up, give a nod to the gravedigger, and walk away. And I'll head into the cathedral and take out my prayer mat, light a candle, and just say a short prayer.
Okay. It's a fairly small cathedral, maybe 30 feet across.
Okay, I ignore the cleric in there if there is one.
No, he's out back digging the grave.
Okay, that's him. All right.
I guess I kind of take off I see my companion walk into the church, and I assume to pray, so I figured it'll be some time. I take off my studded leather armor and lay down my weapons and pick up a shovel and begin helping dig this grave.
Okay.
And if the grave gets finished and they lower the body in, I'll have a small service for the man then and there.
The priest allows you to take the lead as you are a cleric and outrank him significantly.
Okay, very nice. I don't know if there's a generic Astaire version of the service, but I imagine the body gets laid in and we sprinkle some water over the top of him that I say is holy water, even though I don't have access to holy water. And I say the Astaire's prayer of law and justice over him, and then I ask if there's any of his family that wish to say some words, they can come and do so.
The old man the priest shakes his head and goes, No. He was the last of his family. The plague back a year or so ago took the rest of them.
This is a true tragedy. Well, let us make sure his soul goes on in peace to be judged fairly, and then I'll help, put the dirt back over the top of him.
Okay.
So I'll come walking out, maybe 10 or 15 minutes after praying, and maybe that's just when Bishop's finished helping dig the grave. But I'll come up to him and say, "Bishop, perhaps we should move on. We don't want to miss this guy again."
True. The journey is truly the more honorable pursuit, but eventually we must stop this man. And I suit back up in leather armor and bid adieu to the gentlemen that were helping me with the grave, and we'll carry on towards Fortune.
This man's soul is surely, what's the right word? Is surely destined for terrible things. Another murder to his name. I imagine that the Lord will judge him quite unfit.
I look you in the eyes and say, I've murdered more than a fair share in my day. Has the Lord judged me unfit?
I'm sure he will when your time comes.
I'm sorry.
I'm sure he will judge you as you deserve when your time comes.
I nod my head.
You can only hope to make up for your transgressions.
This is true. This is true. I transgress no more. I do think he is but a man, and there is a higher power than man, one that can heal. I do not think he is beyond mercy, although he does need to be justly tried, and his ways put to an end.
I've got like so Gunther's not the smartest guy. That's his one stat that's below 10. He's only got 8 intelligence. I've got like a really large book with the column of Esther on the front, like chained to my waist, and I open it up and flick it to like a page where it's got like the the sentencing and the laws against murder and cannibalism, and I point to it and say, "There will be no mercy for this man. He shall go and meet our Lord once we find him."
Right you are, right you are. And I guess we march on Fortune.
Okay. I sent you guys a link. If you could take a open of that, that would be fantastic.
On Discord.
Yes. We're trying something new that I just realized was available.
All right. Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Should we mute the sounds on normal Roll20?
No. Everything. All the sound options.
So does this let you do like specific sounds at times, like a soundboard?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
That's cool.
Yeah. So you guys leave this nameless, worthless village out in the Great Plains, and you make your way towards Fortune. The late afternoon sun continues to set, and before you get there, you see it dipping down to the edge of the horizon. In the distance, you hear howling wolves.
Nice.
And as you approach Fortune, you actually see from the darkness, from the dimming light, a pack of 3 wolves approaching you, all from the same direction. They eye you with their dim eyes and begin to growl.
How far are we from the entrance?
You're still about maybe 20 minutes from Fortune.
Stop and face them.
Okay. I want to attempt to surprise them with a sudden bright amount of light. I want to stop and just cast light, like centered, like on them, basically, or like right in front of them. Just like, woof, all of a sudden there's a ton of light. I want to try to scatter them, surprise them.
All right, you cast a light spell. That is a very interesting use of that spell. It works exactly as you had hoped. Light goes off, the wolves kind of brace and then split, running off in many different directions.
Excellent.
Guess I sheathe my sword back and say, "That was a neat trick, Bishop."
The Lord provides for us all. Not every judgment need be with the sword.
These wolves are only following their own law anyway, I suppose.
The law of nature is a strong one.
No, I don't put too much faith in the Venus, but I suppose she has her ways. Come, let's carry on before they return.
Yep, and let's make our way to Fortune.
Okay. You guys make your way the remaining 20 minutes or so to Fortune. As you get there, the sun has dipped below the horizon. The thin sliver of moonlight that remains gives you a basic view of what's going on here. The town is walled, and the gates are shut.
Is there a gatekeeper of some kind that
There
is keeping watch of the night?
There's a man on top of the gate with a lantern who shines it down on you guys as you step into view. He says, "Huh! The gates are closed. Why should I let you guys in?"
I am Bishop, a cleric of Astaire, and this, my friend, is a paladin, and we demand entrance. We are seeking quarry that has fled here.
And why should I let you in? It's after dark. We don't open the gates after dark.
You would deny the men of the cloth entrance to your city? This is not the way of law.
Do we have some sort of warrant to chase this to, like some sort of royal decree?
You are the warrant.
Yeah, but do we have something we can show to get ourselves into places that we need to be, or not?
Not really.
Okay. I say to him, we are warranted to track down this murderer. I demand you let us through these gates unless you yourself have something to hide.
All right. I'll let you in, but you do your business quickly and get out. You bring bad luck, and we have no love for outsiders. He disappears behind the wall with his light, and after a few more moments, the gate creaks open slowly.
Cities truly are a cesspool, aren't they, Gunter? I hate to think what leads these men so astray. And then we walk through the gates.
There's probably not a single one in here who doesn't need to be judged.
Aye, agreed. Let us find some lodgings for the night. I feel that it may be beyond our means to track this man until daylight comes.
I look around in the darkness, like, is there any sort of street lamps or anything like that?
No. This is a smallish town. You're guessing probably like 4,500 people, so yeah. As I said before, there's this keep that's up on this raised plateau-like area within the confines of the town walls. All the buildings here are dingy, single-story. They look like they've seen better days. Many of them have collapsing roofs or dilapidated walls. The streets are surprisingly busy for this hour of night. I wouldn't say that they're actually busy, but there are people moving to and fro, trading goods and wares, kind of shuffling about in rags.
Okay. I say to Bishop, let us find the temple. I'm sure they will provide us lodgings for the evening.
Sure.
Let's cut through these streets and just take a look around. So you say there's loads of people in front of us, Neil?
Yeah.
I want to bow my head for a minute in prayer and detect evil intent on the crowd.
What is the radius of detect evil intent?
Let me find it in the book. "60 feet.
Okay. You detect no evil intent within 60 feet.
Perhaps this town isn't as bad as I thought. There seems to be no immediate sinners in the vicinity. Come. Let's find the temple.
Please, let's do so.
Let's stride through the crowd.
I don't so much stride through the crowd as I go from person to person, like introducing myself and having a small talk with each of them, much the way I did with the man in the village. You know, I introduce myself as a cleric, and I point to my companion as he walks up to the temple as a paladin.
You get strange looks from these people as you approach them, and those of them that are off on their own tend to back away. Those that are in groups huddle together and look at you, stopping their conversation. You're clearly a source of much interest.
Yes. I do a fair. I'm still in my armor and stuff, but I don't put my hands on my weapons. I'm very calm about it. I come up and try to talk with each of them, be like, there's no reason to fear us. We're men of the cloth, and I try to talk to them about their laws and have you been to service? And I try to tell parables, and I'm just chatting with every single person on the way through.
As you chat with them, they kind of just stay quiet. If you ask them a direct question, sometimes they answer, sometimes they just turn and walk away. You get the feeling that you are really not welcome here. Additionally, they all speak with a very thick accent, which places you even more as an outsider.
Okay.
When I see Bishop sort of talking to all of the peasants, I turn back. I'm like, I don't know, 50 feet ahead or something. I turn back and stomp back towards him. So I pull him towards me and say, "Bishop, you cannot trust these men. If we tell them who we are and what we stand for, we lose the element of surprise when it comes their time to be judged."
I don't see any reason that we need surprise. They are constantly being judged in the eyes of our Lord. That is our job. How would we be to judge them if we did not introduce ourselves and talk with them? They must know the stories, and they must know the teachings. And if we don't share them with them, how are we to judge them?
They will hide their evil doings if they know who we are. If they do not know, then perhaps we will catch them in the act.
I smile knowingly and I kind of like put my hand on your shoulder and say, it's much harder to hide your evil intent than you may think. But if we must hold off for the night, we can come back in the morning, and I'll just follow you to the church. I'll leave my proselytizing to another time.
You don't know which of these men are in league with our quarry. For all we know, he could be being warned right now of our presence.
For all we know, they could be searching for him themselves in an attempt to bring Astaire's justice to the man. Do not judge too harshly. All men have law and justice in their heart, however small it may be.
All men have evil in their hearts.
Aye, this too. And this we both know very well, do we not?
Only some of us are due redemption.
So, where do you guys go? What do you do?
We go to the temple to see if they'll lodge us.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you find the temple?
I mean, if worse comes to worse, if it's not immediately obvious, then
not.
I'll just go up and ask. You know, I'll find someone on the street and introduce myself as, you know, Bishop. I'm a cleric of Astaire. I wish, you know, maybe you could join me in prayer, but we would like to go to the temple and pray. Could you lead us the way?
He just points down on a street without giving any verbal response, and then backs away.
I nod my head at him and I smile and say, perhaps you can join me on the morrow for prayer. I thank you for the directions, and I'll just follow them.
Okay. You go down the street, and after some ways, you come to a equally dilapidated temple. The steeple looks like it's been knocked over and just kind of patched up on top so that water won't leak in. The front door is a little old and weary. It looks like maybe it's been hacked at before. Maybe people sought refuge here from some sort of other person trying to break in. Parts of the walls are blackened as if it's seen fire recently. And there is a gathering of people out front, dressed in black, some of them crying, some of them giving wails.
Oh, so this is like really recent blackening, as in like fire in the last few hours?
No. This looks like blackening from ages ago, maybe like a year ago,
Okay.
a month ago, something like that. But it looks like there was some sort of funeral procession gathering here.
I want to walk up to the funeral procession, kind of see what's going on. Actually, I'm going to look to see, just as I walk up, if his neck's been carved out, the body.
No.
No.
You do see the body that's being laid on a stretcher, being ready to be carried by people, but not having yet been lifted up. It's just a corpse that it's been treated. It's got some white on the face. The hair is done back. The clothes are nicely buttoned on it. It looks dead, but no sign of cannibalism.
I won't interrupt the procession, but I will join it and wait until it's, you know, comes to an end or my presence is, you know, questioned.
Okay. Eventually, you see the priest come out of the temple. Actually, looks like a cleric by the signs of him. You notice the swinging pendulum or amulet of Verasi on his neck, the goddess of death.
Interesting.
He motions for the procession to begin. The people lift up the body and start making their way through the streets towards the east side of town. The cleric, just about to join the procession, stops and looks at the two of you with his head cocked to one side.
I just kind of nod and stay in the procession line. Like, I acknowledge that I've been seen, but I'm respectful to the ceremony.
The cleric is male, very tall, over 6 feet, but thin and gaunt, with hollowed out kind of cheekbones and weary eyes. He looks around, maybe a little bit nervously at your presence. He stops. He ignores the procession for a moment. He goes, what are the two of you doing here? You don't seem like
Sounds like you were walking up to him, Nick. I think you're.
Yeah, I'll walk up to him. I say, "You seem nervous, priest."
It's not every day you see someone like you around.
Alas, I see more people like you than I'd care to.
I'm gonna walk up and intervene here and say, please don't mind my companion Gunter here. He is the very mouth of the Lord Astaire, and at times can be a bit too quick to judge. I am Bishop, cleric of Astaire, and as aforementioned, this is Gunter. Unfortunately, we come on grave business, but we would be happy to discuss this perhaps later. I know the Lord of Death must oversee these proceedings.
If you don't mind, I would like to speak to you this evening when you return from the procession.
Please, I will just be an hour or two.
I would join you if I could.
Oh, yes. Please come along. We have a long way to walk.
I'll enter the temple.
All right. I strip out of my armor and the armor probably takes too long, right? It's like a whole couple of rounds.
What type of armor are you wearing?
My studded leather.
Okay.
I'll leave that on, right? I just have a cloak or something over it, but I'll leave my mace with Gunter and just be more priestly looking. Less like a threatening visage of death.
The priest looks at Nick and says, please, come this way. This way, please. And he walks off to hurry after the mourners who are crying and wailing.
I stop. I was going to go into the temple.
Oh, I thought you were going to follow him.
I'm following Gunter's going to the temple. So I'm leaving my weapon with Gunter, and then I'm going to go with the procession.
He says that to Bishop then.
Okay, yeah. I follow, I say a blessing of Astaire over the body and then, join in the procession.
The procession leads through the city streets up to the winding, switched back path that leads to the top of the keep, or to the base of the keep. When you get to the base of the switchback, the cleric, who has since introduced himself as Rupert Thorne, says to you, would you please wait here? Only those involved in the rites should enter the catacombs. We will be back in a short time.
If this is the law, then so be it. But I definitely get him kind of suspicious eyes when I say that, okay, so be it, but I don't like it.
We will be just a little while. Please wait. And he takes the mourners up the switchback that goes to the base of the keep. You can see them climb up there in the little bit of starlight and moonlight that exists. And then you can hear more than see the doors open and shut behind them. Sometime later, maybe half an hour or so, you hear the doors open again with their creaks and their booms. And eventually, Rupert Thorne comes back into view, coming back down the switchback, and says to you, there, now that is done, tell me, why is it you have come to my town with your...
Walk with me, Father Thorne. And we just kind of walk down the back towards the church, and I say, unfortunately, it is our duty to hunt down those that transgress against the laws of the Lord. And a man by the name of Lort has come this way. We've tracked him here from, oh my goodness, far to the west. And over many, many days, we know that we are less than a half day behind him. I give a description of a large fat man with burns. We say, unfortunately, he is known to murder indiscriminately and eat his said victims. I was a little worried when I saw the procession. We might have been too late to have stopped yet another of his terrible crimes.
Death lurks around every corner, my son. Surely this man, Lort, will find an untimely end here. We are a reserved people, and outsiders tend to not last very long.
I've gotten that impression. It seems that the common folk are a bit leery of my companion and I. And truly, we respect the sovereignty of the goddess of death. It is a true and noble punishment for those that deserve it. It's just unfortunate if they see death too soon or out of order, if it were.
Yes.
Tell me, why is the procession not allowed to outsiders? I am a man of the cloth. I could have helped with the rites, I am sure.
We have our own ways of doing things. We do not appreciate foreigners meddling in our affairs. It is enough that you have been allowed to accompany us this far.
I my head, and outwardly respectful of that, and say, okay. Tell me, have you or any one of your followers, your worshippers at the temple, seen or heard of any outsiders other than the two of us to arrive in town?
I have not seen of anyone myself. When did this murderer arrive in our town?
So I say he left the nameless. He left a village about 5 miles to the west last night. It should have been sometime today.
Perhaps you will have better luck at the inn in town.
We will definitely be trying there on the morrow. I was hoping perhaps that if you are as reserved to people as you say, perhaps it would have been a more obvious thing to have such an outsider appear.
It probably is, but I doubt a murderer comes seeking the Temple of the Gods.
This is true. Perhaps that is a foolish thought. I was perhaps more concerned that maybe one of your followers had confided this with you, or you had heard from people that were not the murderer himself. I'm sure that we will find him and deliver the Lord's justice timely. Perhaps Varasi will have another soul for her to take before we are through here.
He nods. Let's switch back to Nick.
Okay.
Gunter.
So walk in. Gunter. All the other temples that we've been to in Hardcore Heroes have shrines to all of the gods. Is this similar?
This one is not. It is a much smaller temple. You kind of just have shrines to the main 4 gods, but usually the gods of Martha is in the upper left and Astaire is in the upper right, with Malchus and Varasi being in the back left and back right, respectively. In this case, it's reversed, where you have Malchus and Varasi up front and Martha and Astaire in the back, and the other gods are not really represented.
How do I feel in here, knowing that, like a paladin's sort of concept? You can detect evil, but then also you can sort of like feel a little bit uneasy in the evil places.
I think you felt uneasy since you set foot in this town. Perhaps even since you set foot in the village way back.
All right. I stand at the door of the temple and cast, bow my head in prayer and cast Detect Evil Intent. And there's no obvious hiding places, but perhaps there's an unobvious one. But I just scan to see if there's anyone in here.
You detect no evil intent.
So I want to go to Astaire's vigil and put my prayer mat down and light my candles and incense and pray.
Okay. You notice the statue of Astaire is blackened by smoke, probably from the same fire that blackened the walls.
So is there
no one seems to have taken the time to clean it off.
Did we pass a well?
You did.
I'll after I finish praying, then I'll go and get a bucket of water and bring it back into the temple and start cleaning up the sigil.
Okay. I think by the time, you're cleaning the sigil when Bishop and Rupert Thorne emerge.
I feel like by the time we get to the temple once again, we're deep in like a philosophical conversation about like the parts that Varasi's and death play in law, and how like some of it's good but some of it's bad. And I'm like trying to convince him that like death in the course of law is a righteous thing, but death outside of it is unnatural. And perhaps he has some counterclaim to that.
His stance is more of, death comes to us all.
Yeah.
Eventually, whether it is untimely or timely is of no matter. Life ends when it ends.
Yeah. And we're in the midst of that, discussion as we come in.
Have I finished wiping off the soot?
It's difficult to remove. You've got the bottom part of the statue done. You're getting to the upper part. The statue's like 7 feet tall, so it's a little hard to clean the whole thing, and it's not blackened all the way to the top, but you've made some good progress. But the soot seems to be really caked on here.
So I put the bucket back down, stand back up, grab my sword and my shield, attach my prayer book back to my chain on my belt, and walk back over to Bishop and the Verasi priest and say, Bishop, did you enjoy your procession?
Much so, yes.
Well, I've been having some downtime myself. Perhaps it's time we get back to work. I think, given that this Lord seems to be leaving towns in the night, if you wish to sleep, then sleep, but I think I will do some investigation for a few more hours.
Mm-hmm. I think that perhaps my ability to investigate would be much enhanced in the morning.
Very well. Well,
I will sleep and keep a watchful eye for a time. But please, if you have investigating to do, by all means.
I shall just walk the streets. Speak to the guards, perhaps. Make sure that they don't let anyone leave.
Sure. If the guards themselves have information, that would be wonderful. I believe on the morning we should speak with the guard captain, if such a thing exists. Or at least one that is in charge of the gates.
Do not worry about this man escaping in the night. Nobody leaves once the gates are closed. Nobody enters.
Well, we got in, didn't we?
Yes. You did, didn't you? The only other exit would be across the River Crocs. But I don't think anyone will want to cross that, especially in the night.
Deep and swift. A good river is good protection.
Filled with alligators and hippopotamus. A most dangerous venture. Even our most hardened citizens do not go for a swim.
I think this Lord is too fat to escape an alligator, so you're probably correct.
Yes, you may rest. I have room here at the temple if you would like to stay. There is a rarely used guest room. It has not been opened in some time. Let me find keys.
I'm going to whip out to the street really quick and then just find a random person, point at them, and say, dance, and command them to dance, and then whip back into the temple so I burn that spell.
The person ends up doing a little shuffle step, shuffle step, shuffle step, shuffle step, and then when the spell wears off, you're probably gone.
Yeah. I just needed to burn a spell.
Okay.
I wasn't going to command the Cleric of Verasi to do something.
All right. Why don't we take our break here, and we'll come back in the morning, unless, Nick, you've got plans tonight?
I mean, I'm just going to walk around and talk to the guards and make sure no one leaves.
Okay.
But, yeah, we'll come back in the morning.
Come back on the other side of our break. See you guys in a few minutes. Bye-bye.